Welcome back to Quantum Alchemists, episode 2 of season 2. I am Mr. Alchemistic, your host. You can call me B. And I am joined by my very gracious co host, Mr. Quantum himself, Alex Romero Benjian.
What's up, B? What's up, everybody? Good to see you again. I know it's been like what, a week since we got here?
I think I looked today, it was 9 days since the last
9 days.
podcast.
Man, I feel like I'm slipping here. No, but we're trying very hard to bring this stuff to you guys as frequent as possible. And today's a special day. Today happens to be Inauguration Day.
Martin Luther
What a
King
lovely
Day?
day. Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King Day too. Yes, Martin
Yeah,
Luther King Day. A lot of dreams are coming true today. A lot of dreams are coming true today, not for some, but today's Martin Luther King's day. He had a dream, he had a vision, which today our newly inaugurated president seems to feel like he's gonna help make country fulfill Martin Luther King's dreams. And forgive me because I had a phone call come in right there, so it kind of messed me up. But
you're fucking up,
yeah,
bro.
I know. So we're doing good though. We're here. It's January 20th, Martin Luther King Day, Presidential Inauguration Day, and we felt like it was important to do this today because there's a lot going on in the world right now, and um, I feel like it's not a little, it's very important that we cover, today. Today does mark a historical moment in not just our nation's history, but in our present day history. And I believe Pisces shifted North Node, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
Yes, I think it was something like that. There was an astrological event today. I think it was Pisces switching to North Node. We've got in 5 days, January 25th, we have planetary alignment of 5 planets. I believe it was Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. Yeah, there's a big planetary alignment coming up on January 25th, which is a very powerful day in astrology. There's that many planets aligning on one day. I'm gonna look it up real quick. January
no
20
worries.
planetary alignment. Um, so yeah, today was inauguration day. I am wearing my Osiris shirt in honor of the ceremony, the ritual of the rebirth of Osiris, which is the presidential inauguration. If you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, look it up. The symbology of the presidential inauguration in Washington, D.C., the Masonic symbolism within the Capitol. There's a lot of symbolic alignments with that point to the ritual of Osiris. Trump is particularly significant because he is rebirthing as the president. He had the 45th presidential term and now the 47th. So he is literally being rebirthed as the president after 4 years of Biden. So there's a lot of symbology going on here. And as always in our country, there's a lot of symbolism that hides under the surface. But so I'm wearing my Osiris shirt, which you can find on alchemisticapparel.com to honor the symbolic rebirth of Osiris and the inauguration of Donald Trump. And we've talked about ever since the election. We had 3 episodes about the election. We talked about all of this stuff that's happening in our country and astrologically. So there's a lot to unpack. We're going to do something special today. We're going to have clips of the inaugural address and weigh in on our thoughts about the some of the main bullet points about what Donald Trump was talking about today. It was I watched the whole speech. It was a pretty powerful speech and kind of redundant in a lot of ways in some parts, but which is kind of expected of Donald Trump. He's a very he likes to uh what's the word?
Enchant. He likes to enchant.
And
Like I
he he's very self-aggrandizing and so it's It was good though. A lot of the things he talked about were like rebuilding the manufacturing base, which is a crucial element of our economy and has been decimated since NAFTA in 1995. I think is when the NAFTA was signed, and we started all these companies started taking their manufacturing bases overseas, and a lot of American jobs were lost, and it's killed our manufacturing base in a lot of ways, and that's why China has kind of taken the global stage financially with their manufacturing. Everything's made in China. And another point he talked about was the Panama Canal. We built the
Right.
Panama Canal. We controlled it for a lot of time, and we gave it back to Panama. And now China is de facto controlling it. So Trump talked about that.
Right.
He took some shots. He took a lot of shots at the departing administration and the ideology that they espouse. Talked
You,
about
you know what was great was when he opened up his speech. Oh, he opened up his speech. He said the golden age of America is beginning now. And then he said some stuff like that, if you were the current administration, like I don't even know how they were able to sit with their heads held up high. It was like straight up like just bashing their lack of competency and he was in a way like bashing them, and they're all just sitting there just clapping, and it was great to see, and I don't know if this is a usual thing because at least not during Biden's administration, where I noticed when he talked, like I don't remember seeing any standing ovations. I don't remember seeing any, like, people barely moved when that guy was talking, but today I saw people getting up out of their chair like every other thing that Trump was saying, which is nice because you could see that people are engaged with what he's saying.
it got a little excessive. I was kind of like another standing ovation. Are you guys
Yeah,
serious?
but
It was like up and down and up and down and up and down. It's like just keep standing and
yeah,
clap when
might as
you
well
want
at that
to.
point.
At
At
that
that
point,
point,
it was just it got like I said, there's some redundancy to the whole speech. And you guys, if you didn't see it, we'll give you some clips of it. We're gonna do a little screen share and play some of it and give our thoughts at different points. And there's a lot of interesting things going on between the fires between the hostages being released in Israel. It appears that the Russia Ukraine conflict is probably going to come to a conclusion at some point in the very near future. There's a lot of ramifications of this transfer of power from one president to another. And Trump is bringing in, he's kind of, this is like his Teddy Roosevelt run, right? Only he doesn't speak softly. He carries a big stick and he speaks belligerently. So it's going to be a very interesting 4 years under Donald Trump. I kind of foresaw this thing happening, right? There's this big shift happening in the opposition to Trump, right? Like there's been this vociferous opposition to him since he took power in 2016. The media's hated on him. All these different moguls and people were just pushing up against Donald Trump as much as possible, trying to get the public to hate him, spreading all kinds of stuff like, oh, he's a racist and he's a Nazi and he's a fascist and there's going to be dictatorship
right, all
and
your
now
rights are being taken away, and you're going to become a slave now, and
yeah, and now that he's taking power again, the tone has shifted considerably. There are still his detractors, but the tone is starting to shift considerably. And I think I've seen this coming for a while that like eventually I feel like everybody that hated on Donald Trump is going to turn into a Trump fan. And this is why I said in the lead in to the election and the election episodes, I don't trust him. I don't trust anybody in power. I don't. That's just my nature. Is like I didn't want Kamala to win because I saw where we were going with the far left stuff, and it was like time that that came to an end. But I also don't trust Trump. I don't trust anything that happens in the mainstream
well,
in the puppet show. Like
well,
there's a go ahead.
we do need to be conscious that, like, yes, he won. One of the themes that I keep hearing is like, or I keep wanting to reinforce is like, no one person is going to come and save you or me or any
Mm-hmm.
of us. Like his job isn't to save us. That's our job. Our job is to save ourselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But him coming in and creating all of this friction in government is now allowing the opportunity for the powers that be to shift their focus onto their internal conflict within government so they could leave the people alone long enough to fight this battle at the local level. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
really what's going on here. That's the only way we're going to win this. Donald Trump isn't going to save us or change, we have to do that.
What's been real interesting to me is there is a cultural shift happening. Like we're tilting far left for a while. Like the media was pushing it, and Hollywood and the media has always been left wing, but it got to an extreme, right? And the worry I have is the pendulum swings just as violently backwards as when it swings up one way, right? This is how we talk about the political pendulum, right? So it swung very hard left for, a good portion of the last 10, 12 years. It swung way left and we went way off the deep end that way. So what I am a little wary of at this point is it swinging violently back this way.
The
And
overcorrection.
yeah, overcorrection for the madness as we go back to this way to madness of you know like religious far right conservative you know type of social movement of puritanical type of control and it I always feel like the balance. There's a reason why the Buddhist way is called the middle way, right? Because it's centered. It's not wacky one way or wacky the other way. Because both sides on the far on the outliers, right, of the
Balance.
anomalies are wacky. It's just it doesn't work on a grand scale, right? You cut it in the middle with the razor's edge, and that's kind of where I'm trying to walk here is on this razor's edge of sanity in the middle to avoid this because ultimately what lies at the outliers is total control. If you look at the political pendulum, the political sphere, right? This political whatever you call it, right? You got far left and you got far right. That's totalitarianism, one way or the other. It's just that the
Right.
ideology is very close to each other, just different values of the
Right.
ideology, right? So we have to be wary of these outliers taking the population in the wrong direction one way or the other. And it's all about control. Like I feel like the most evil thing in the world is control. It's one side putting its thumb down on the other side, being like, you're gonna live this way and that because I said so. Like that's what I'm worried about. And so that's my concern going into this presidency. I don't think Trump is far right like they've always tried to build him out to be. I think Trump's pretty much a middle guy, right? He used to be a liberal. He went conservative because that was I think feel like there's an easier path for him, and he was able to grab that base over here of the working class because a lot of the working class is over here on the right, and that was how he kind of came to power. But he's more of a middle, like socially,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like with the media putting out this narrative that he's far right, it did kind of garner him a lot of support from these people that are way over here that are wacko, like the far right religious wackos and the racists and they kind of thought that he was their voice, even though he's socially here. The media painted this picture of him being over here, so all the
Yeah.
people that really are over here thought that he like took grabbed onto that. Oh, he's one of us. So it's kind of given a voice and a power to these people to kind of voice their wacky, anomalous viewpoints. So
I'm glad. I'm glad you
that's
brought this up. Also, I'm glad you brought that up because like the far left media, I believe, is reaching at the end of its days. I think
yeah.
that people have gotten enough of it. They've got their fill of it. They don't want it anymore. And now I believe we're going to see a giant shift in media. I believe, like I don't want to sound egotistical in any way, but I believe, people like you and I and like other people that are trying to put out these types of messages, I believe those people are going to be the new media, the new norm,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what people are going to want to gravitate to because it's more real. It's more it's more something that people can connect to. There's no separation, right? We're all in this shit together. And we're reporting what we're seeing, which is pure BS at this point. I mean, we wanted to talk about a little bit about the fires, and about what's going on there. I mean that like there's a lot that could be said about that alone in itself, and
There,
how
there's a
that was.
lot of there's a lot of very obvious things like with the Los Angeles fires. You see the failure of the far left leadership. It's and with the far left, it comes down to overexposure, right? Anything that gets overexposed, people are fickle, and if they get too much of something, they don't want it anymore. And I'll give you a perfect example in sports, right? Tom Brady. Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback that ever lived. He won 7 Super Bowls. By the end of his run, people were fucking sick of Tom Brady. They're like, "Fuck this guy, get him out of here. We need someone else to win." Right? So in comes
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, the heir apparent. Right? He comes in, he wins his first Super Bowl. Oh, great! Everybody's loving the Chiefs. Oh, thank God it's somebody other than Tom Brady. Now he's won the last two, so he's won three total, and people are completely sick of the Chiefs. They want nothing to do with the Chiefs anymore because it's got the Taylor Swift thing. Oh, fuck Taylor Swift. Travis Kelsey's way overexposed. Patrick Mahomes has been shoved down our throats. Oh, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Every announcer's on his jock, and it's just like people are completely sick of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Taylor Swift. They want anybody but the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, right? Overexposure. They've been overexposed. We got to watch the Bundle Rooski commercial fucking ad nauseum every football game. State Farm commercials and blah, 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 just been shoved down our throats. And the same thing has happened with the left wing stuff. Is like people got sick of it. So now, boom, they're back on Trump, and now you're seeing people who are traditionally left wing kind of be gravitating away from the left. Joe Rogans of the world have been branded far right, but like Joe Rogan's a liberal. And even like Elon Musk and Bobby Kennedy Jr. was a liberal. Like all these people are swinging this way because they're seeing that
Yeah.
this has reached its expiration date. The
You
far
know,
left woke shit is old and moldy and
you
stale, and
know,
it's time to get rid of that. Now, oh, I'll hail the right.
we
It's
we
just
talked about this. We talked about this on the Purple People Eaters, right?
mhm.
Purple People Eaters, because we talked, and I was talking about this earlier this morning with somebody, which was, um, you do have you've got this giant wave of purple right now, right? And you've got a lot of people who traditionally um voted Democrat, that have changed their political views that are now more right. And one of the things that has been happening is, you've got um this sense of like what I feel is happening is it's almost like I envision it as we're taking the pacifier out of our people right now, right? And that's how I see it is like this what's happening is we've been pacified, we've had the metaphorical pacifier shoved in our face, and right now what's happening is it's getting pulled out, and the veil's getting pulled back, and everyone's like, what WTF, what the fuck? And people are now forced to, and the way I described it, we talked about it this morning with this guy was, he's like, now people gotta wake up to what it is to be to man up, right? And I hate using that, but man up, like what it means to be, self-responsible, responsible for your own actions, for your own self, for your own future, and not letting other people or your government dictate what your capacity or your capabilities are, because you are a sovereign divine being and you can do whatever you want to. You just have to get your lazy ass up off the couch and go and do it. That's really it.
Yeah. And victimhood currency has plummeted. I think that's what we're going to see in the next at least couple of years is the complete rejection of that whole notion that came about. And I think the seeds of this were planted during COVID, right? We had the COVID pandemic. Trump got ousted. Biden came in, and then the left was given its chance to lead, and but they
Drop
kind
the
of
ball
fumbled. They fumbled the ball in a lot of ways, and
for
people
sure.
saw how badly they fumbled. So now we're back to Trump again, and it's it's interesting time to be alive and to see the social changes. And it's just people that see need to be aware. You need to be aware of the public puppet show and
Hmm.
just pivot accordingly. Don't
Right.
get wrapped up and swept up in it, but just to
No
observe.
there. No
It's a good
there.
time.
Yeah.
It's a really good time to be an observer and to not be emotionally attached to outcomes and
Yes.
just see how things play out. Because ultimately, a lot of this stuff's out of our control. All that we can really control is our response to our
Yeah.
personal response
Yeah.
to the outward environment. So this is going to be a good time if you're really angry about Trump winning to practice that, and if you're really happy about Trump winning, check
Practice.
your enthusiasm and
Yeah.
watch. And if you're like us and you don't have a horse in the race one way or the other, it's a really good time to tap into that awareness and observe and see, because our responses are going to dictate where our lives go. It's not a product of, oh, I'm a victim of this or I'm a victim of that. It's time for us to take responsibility for ourselves and our own perspectives, but also observe, because you can learn a lot of things in times like this. But it's like there's so much going on and information is thrown at us at a million miles an hour, and we have the whole world's knowledge at our fingertips. So it's really easy to get distracted and get pulled out of the moment. But when you come to the moment, you start to observe things, you learn a lot more when you quiet and slow down and you start to just absorb. And it can give you insight and intuition into your own steps on your path that you need to take next. Like the Indiana Jones stepping off the ledge into the nothing.
Right.
It's in a lot of ways we're kind of
The
in
leap of
that
faith.
place. We're all kind of in that place collectively because we don't really know what's coming next, and it's going to be uh, interesting to say the least. And I think it's a good time to maybe get into this a little bit of this inaugurational speech, and it'll give us a little bit more to digest and to discuss. And let's go from there. I'm gonna pull up the screen share, and we're gonna get going on it.
And
So,
while you're pulling that up, what did you want to mention about Dave Chappelle? What was talked about that was so
oh well, it was funny. I think he talked about the fires. He talked about P Diddy. But I thought the
mm,
most impactful thing that he talked about was Palestine. He talked about Palestine and Jimmy
okay.
Carter. Because Jimmy Carter just passed away, and he was talking about how he remembers when Jimmy Carter wrote a book about Palestine, about the plight of Palestine, right? And then he went to Israel, and the Israelis were not happy with him for writing that book. But he went to Israel, and he insisted on going to Palestine, and the Israelis told him, "Well, if you go to Palestine, we can't guarantee your safety." And he said, "I don't care." And he went to Palestine anyway, and he was getting cheered in the streets in Palestine like a hero because he was actually showing them some support and had their back and wrote a book about them, and they were very grateful. And he was 100% safe because he was like a hero. But Dave Chappelle was just talking about how, he people talk shit about Jimmy Carter and say he wasn't a good president, and he's like, I don't care one way or the other. It's not my place to judge him as a president, but he's like, I know that that was a good man. And it really touched my heart because the in this time, that's a very divisive issue as well. And I feel like the people of Palestine have kind of been sold out, and that we always defer to Israel because it's our ally, and you know, a lot of the religious right sees Palestine as a bunch of demons, but they're people, right? Like yeah, their leadership is not the greatest, and there's a lot of conflict between their leadership and Israel, but that's not the fault of the people, right? The people there, there's a lot of people suffering there. There's a lot of children dying there, and there's a lot of just unnecessary suffering in
Right.
Palestine. So I like that Dave Chappelle brought it up, and the end of his monologue was that we need to um, be there for each other as people, whether we live in the Palisades or we live in Palestine. And I think that was a really strong message. And it's a comedy show; it's supposed to be funny, but Dave Chappelle has a good way of like striking a chord. He can
Yeah,
make you laugh, but then he can bring you to the moments where you're like, it really makes you think and it makes you emotional. And he's just a very, very strong public speaker. And I encourage you guys watch that monologue because not only is it funny, it's very thoughtful. And that was something I really enjoyed. And I've always been a fan of Dave Chappelle. I think he's a great comedian, but he's also a thoughtful man. He
yeah.
reminds me a lot of George Carlin in George Carlin's prime, in that George Carlin brought great comedy, but he had his
Brought a lot of
finger on the
truth.
pulse of
Yeah,
social issues, and he
a
was
lot
able
of truth.
to give it to everybody equally, right? And people like to, oh, he was a liberal. It's like, no, George Carlin was a man that he was the one that walked the razor's edge, and he had the courage to take shots at everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah, that Dave Chappelle monologue was great.
And
And
one last thing before we get into this thing was I know that he said about the fires and stuff, and one of the things that kind of came to mind was um I recently I came across this video. It was this black girl, young, very pretty, talking about, months and months ago, where she was saying, watch out for fires and watch out for explosions because they're trying to cover up evidence for the P. Diddy trials.
mhm,
And this is like months ago before this whole fires broke out, but like the videos are resurfacing now all of a sudden. And so that's a little food for thought for y'all, for those of you who are in the area or those of you who are not, who think that this is just an accident, you know, um, do a little bit of your research and try and find out like who was indicted on that P. Diddy list and how many of those people's homes got burnt up in the fires and how many of them were supposed to have their homes inspected by the FBI not long around the same time as the fires or like shortly thereafter. They're supposed to have their homes inspected, but there's nothing to inspect now because the homes are gone. So just some stuff to think about, when you're like, oh, this is just a natural occurring thing. When I hear personally from like people that lived in the area tell me that some of the citizens or residents of the area had seen people with ski masks and propane tanks and flamethrowers, like lighting up stuff. So it's like some people like don't believe everything the media tells you guys. Like there's obviously a lot more at play here, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in there for some people to like maybe process that and see like if that triggers anything in your heads. And if it does, please leave some comments in the description down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And now we should get into this inauguration video.
well, I just want to touch on what you just said because it's really interesting you bring that up about the P Diddy thing. Because I was talking to my friend the other day about the exact same thing. I was like, because we were talking about there's a lot of talk about there being arsonists that started these fires, and I find it really interesting that the Palisades was completely decimated. Like all these Hollywood celebrities and famous people and powerful people, and their homes are just gone. Like there's not a fucking shred of the homes left. It was just like they are just completely gone down to ash. And it's just really interesting that around this time that they were talking about possible indictments or things coming out that all these homes just happened to get burned to the ground. So if there's any kind of evidence, that it's all gone.
It's all
So
gone.
I think it's just very convenient, and it's it when these things happen, there's always conspiracy theories and
Right.
whatnot. But another convenient thing that is a talking point that comes up during any time that California has these big fires during a drought is climate change, right? So it's a convenient
Yeah.
talking point for the people who are big climate
Yeah.
change people to point
Sure.
to it and be like, "Oh, climate change." But it's like and Joe Rogan was talking about this too. Is like this is a time where all these climate hoax, whatever, like these fear mongers around
Well,
climate change, it always gives them a talking point to be like, well, look what happened in California. No, we got to do something. We got to act. So it works on
it,
two levels. It eliminates P. Diddy trial evidence stuff for possible future indictments, and it gives the climate change people who are on the same side of the fence as the P. Diddy people it gives them another talking point to try to push their point that, oh, the climate's changing and this is climate change. So we're actually
Yep.
almost out of time. We should probably restart and do to get into the this inauguration.
Yeah,
It's 30 minutes long.
that's
So
fine.
yeah, well, we could wrap up this first part and then get into the inauguration in the second part because
For sure.
we just
What,
gabbed it away. We just gabbed it up for too long,
it's
and now we
okay.
got to restart.
One of the things I want to touch upon that also is to think about this. A lot of these homeowners that a lot of these places that got burnt up, like fire insurance pulled out of California, I think a couple of years ago, the majority of them, if not, within the last several months, at the very least, they've pulled out. So like a lot of these properties weren't covered under the fires.
Yeah.
And another thing that I just recently found out from one of my colleagues was that if you had even if you had full coverage auto insurance, your cars aren't covered under fire. And the interesting thing is that I had, been told from people of Miles who was at ground zero, said that cops were advising people leave your cars and go if you want to live. And it's like now all this stuff that got burned up, like there's gonna be massive debt still owed. Like these people still have to pay this money back. I mean, it's just a really big mess. Like we still haven't even seen the full force of what this really means yet. And now what happens is now they're asking for all this federal funding, which is really interesting because there's a battle happening in Huntington Beach where the Huntington Beach city of Huntington Beach is trying to uh, break away from the federal funding or the federal teat per se, so that they don't have to enforce any of the tyrannical laws of our federal government. And here now, because of all this stuff that happened, they're not covered. Well, now what's going to happen is if these people want to recover any of the money that they lost in these properties, they're going to be forced to sell pennies on the dollar just so they could recover something. It's so bizarre, man. It's so messed up. So messed up.
You know what it kind of reminds me of with these insurance companies backing out just in the nick of time before the fire? You know what it reminds me of? Larry
What?
Silverstein. You know who that is, right?
Remind me,
Larry Silverstein, the most prophetic businessman of all time, was he bought the World Trade Center complex,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Just
Yes.
I think like 6 months or something before the attacks.
Mhm.
6 months before the attacks, and he insured the towers against a terrorist attack,
Right.
against a
Which,
plane crash terrorist attack. Like very
mhm,
specific. He's very specific about the insurance policy that he put on the World Trade Center. And
yep.
also another thing, these businessmen and these people must have a fucking great fortune teller because right before 9/11 there was all kinds of put options which a put option in the stock market is betting against a stock, a put option. So there was millions and millions of dollars of put options placed on airline stocks right before 9/11, and the people that put these put options on these stocks cashed in huge because airline stocks went through the toilet after 9/11. So that's a little conspiracy stuff for you guys to look into. And it just goes to show that these rich people and these companies always seem to have a little bit of insight into these things before
Right.
they happen.
Well, never let a crisis go to waste, they say.
And they always seem to know when those crises are coming. Let's go to COVID and Event 201 that took place 3 months before the pandemic, and they were wargaming for a possible coronavirus pandemic that swept the world just three
What a
months
coincidence.
before 3 months before it actually happened. Conspiracy.
Right.
Ooh,
But we're the ones wearing tinfoil hats, guys.
yeah,
All right. I'm pretty sure we're almost out of time, so we'll pick this back up in part two and go into the inauguration.
yes, sir.
Love you guys.
Rebirth of Osiris.
Has that old capitalist devil got you down again this holiday season? You really feeling that Christmas pinch? Well, we here at Alchemystic Apparel feel your pain, and we've slayed our prices. Now you can get the devil's head on a shirt for less than 20 bucks. That and 19 other designs and 66, that's right, 66 total variations for less than 20 bucks. Stick it to the devil and check it out.
And we are back on this episode 2 of season 2, Quantum Alchemists here. You guys just saw a commercial for Alchemystic Apparel. You can get tons of awesome t-shirts like this one. Most of them are $19.99. The ones that have the logo on the sleeve are $24.99. They're available right now for your purchase. So this episode is primarily about the inauguration, rebirth of Osiris, and Donald Trump had a very powerful address, I feel, redundant at times, as we spoke about earlier, but he's covered some really important things about what his vision is for his second term and his golden age of America that begins today. So, golden age of Osiris.
Right.
So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's watch some of this inauguration, and we'll pause. I'll pause it at times. We'll give our little feedbacks. But here is your brand new 47th President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump.
I'm going to do the standing ovation too.
First of many standing ovations.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now.
There it is.
From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again and all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end.
Lots of shots.
Yeah, lots of shots.
I thought it was funny that he addresses Biden and Harris, and then he proceeds to just tear their administration apart and just talk a bunch of shit about how they destroyed the country and how he's going to make it great again.
Yeah, as they're sitting right behind him. It's fucking...
Yeah. I pointed out to my mom, man, Kamala sure is a sourpuss, because she had this sourpuss look on her face throughout this whole thing.
And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens, while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair.
That's true, Trump. That's true. Trump's true character, man. He's he pulls no punches, talking about a radical administration as they're sitting literally over his left shoulder, just making them listen.
We now have a government that
And
cannot
corrupt. And
manage
corrupt
even a simple
administration.
crisis at
Radical and
home,
corrupt.
while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is I was watching something, and you know, all these immigration stuff that we've had, I believe it's all of these countries. Like, first of all, this isn't the first time. Back in the day, there's an event called El Mariel, which was back in, I think, in the 80s, when Cuba released all of its prisoners into Miami. And I believe this is what's happened again. Like, all these people that have been coming through the southern border, it's all these countries emptying out their prisons and all their crazies and stuff like that and sending them over here. Isn't that some wild shit?
Yeah, and then like a lot of it's like gangs. Like I know, like specifically in I think it's Denver, there's a really violent
Yeah.
gang. I want to say Costa Rican, but it might not. It might
Venezuelan.
Venezuelan. Okay, yeah. So I personally, being from Los Angeles, we've grown up with immigrants our whole life. It's kind of just a way of life, and a lot of these immigrants, they take jobs that none of us want. Like
Right.
they're the dishwashers and they're the ones that clean up after everybody, and they just do all
Right.
these menial jobs that nobody wants to do. So, good on them. They're trying to make a better life for themselves. They're here to make the American dream. A lot of them are sending money back home, and I personally, just throughout my life, have worked with a lot of these people who are building up their nest egg back home in Mexico, and I don't have any problem with that at all. Like,
The
go
ones
come
that
make the
come to
money
work,
here.
or the ones that are coming to work, yeah, it's the ones that are coming here doing all the nasty shit that they were doing in their countries. And those people, like, don't get me wrong, like, yes, there's a lot of nice people, but there's also, like, if you want to talk about nasty and vicious and violent, like, these people, bro, like, they're, like, from the age of children, bro, that, like, these people are trained to kill. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about? Because they have to fend for themselves. I mean, and I hate using this word, but to some degree, some of these people could be considered savage, right?
yeah,
Like they just don't have the people skills or the communication skills to be able to thrive in a society where we're more pacified, right?
yeah. So
And so, go ahead.
I know. I think having my brother's wife is Chinese, right? She's Chinese national, like that immigrated here, has been going through the naturalization process. Married my brother's trying to get her green card. She's been going through this shit for 10 years. She's been married to my brother for going on 5 years this year in October, and still hasn't gotten her green card. So she's had to jump through all these hoops. She's had to go through all this shit to be a naturalized legal immigrant, right? So for people like that, I feel for them with this
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
this administration, and the left in general has been very welcoming and coddles a lot of these illegal immigrants and gives them benefits and government money and like all these things, and doesn't
yeah,
enforce the border. The legal immigrants like my brother's wife have to be like, well, what the fuck, man? I had to jump through all these hoops. I'm still jumping through all these hoops.
right,
There aren't resources for me. So why is that? And that's, I think, a big problem that we need to look at is legal immigration, how hard it is to be a legal immigrant. And that's why all these people are coming over here legally, because they're like, fuck this legal immigration and all the hoops I got to jump through. Look at what I do. If I'm a illegal immigrant, I can come through and get all these benefits. So what
right,
benefits the individual to be a
right.
legal immigrant if it's the process is so hard and the illegal immigrants are getting a lot more help? So
Yeah,
it's
the
it's a
incentives,
weird
yeah, the
it,
incentives aren't there.
it's just a weird broken system that that's what we need to look at is maybe if we make the legal immigration a little bit softer and a little bit easier on these people, they won't be so inclined to come here illegally. And that's something that nobody talks about. Absolutely nobody talks about that in this whole process, is how difficult it is to become a legal citizen. So why is that? Why? Then that's a big question that needs to be asked in the media and by people in power. Is like, why are we making it so hard on people like my brother's wife to come over here legally from China and jump through hoops for literally a decade? She's been literally here for a decade.
And on top of that, people who are trying to come here and do the right thing on top of it all.
Why are we penalizing the people who are trying to do it right and then rewarding the people who are flooding over here illegally? And it's not a knock on the illegal immigrants, because like I said, a lot of these people are lovely people that are just trying to build a life. They just want that American dream. And by all means, let them come. But let's make it easier on the legal immigrants so we don't have so many people that want to be illegal immigrants. It's just weird, backwards thing that just needs to be rectified. It's a problem that needs to be solved. So let's get back to Donald. But that's just, our 2 cents about immigration.
I'm with you on that.
Refuses to defend
my family
American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn. From weeks ago, without even a token of defense, they're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place.
I only laugh because, again, they're all sitting right behind
their
it.
faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom.
The freedom.
From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Finally implying that the decline was partially still happening with Biden's administration.
Yeah. One of the funny things Biden did, not to change the subject or anything, but one of the funny things he did on his way out is that he pardoned Fauci.
Bro, Fauci and a bunch of other inmates. Yeah, what the fuck?
He pardoned Fauci. He pardoned Liz Cheney. Like, that makes me think, like, what do they got on Fauci? They must know that some stuff is going to come out about the pandemic and about the things that Fauci did and the things that Fauci knew that are going to infuriate people. And so he preemptively pardoned him. So that means Fauci can't be prosecuted for any of the crimes that are going to come out that he was guilty of. But I know specifically, and this was very interesting, at the beginning of the pandemic, Newsweek did an article about the gain of function research that was done by Fauci's people in Wuhan. And this research was started at Fort Detrick. And Obama banned the research, right? So Fauci was doing this gain of function research on this coronavirus in Fort Detrick in the United States. And the research was banned. So they took it to Wuhan, China. And that was when Newsweek did this article about all of it. And this is when the talk about it being a lab leak was seen as conspiracy theory, right? So this Newsweek article got buried and nobody talked about it for months, but it came out early in the pandemic. And it was something that I talked about in my other podcast, Dead Rabbit Society, that you can still find on Spotify. And it was really just a really interesting little tidbit that the mainstream media had put out there, and then it got buried. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, it became massively accepted that this was a lab leak. It wasn't some rogue bat at a wet market that this set spread this. It was a lab borne virus that caused the COVID pandemic, and Fauci's hands were all over it, right? So it was just really interesting that he was the one that facilitated the research into coronavirus gain of function research in Fort Detrick in the States. Then it got taken to Wuhan, and then it leaked by accident. And then Fauci ends up being the guy who's in charge of all of it. So look for that, guys. That's going to be really interesting to see over the next couple of years what comes out about Fauci. And he's been very conspicuously absent from the public eye for quite some time. And I have a feeling that, he may escape prosecution, but when people find out what this guy was really responsible for and what he knew, like, while he was telling people what to do and trying to basically be the de facto dictator during the COVID pandemic, that when it really comes out what Anthony Fauci did and knew, they're going to string this dude up by his toes, and rightfully so. And when that day comes, I'll be eating some popcorn and smoking a cigar, because
I'm wondering if on that list of pardoned people was Bill Gates.
They would have said so. I don't think so. So that's another guy. I remember a funny meme of it was, I don't remember what movie poster it was, but it was two guys running away from a crowd, right? And people photoshopped Bill Gates's head and Fauci onto the guys in the movie poster of them running away. Oh no! So because both of those guys have their hands filthy from the COVID pandemic and the things they tried to foist upon us during the pandemic. So anyway, that was a kind of a tangent, but it reminded me, as Biden's going out of office, that all the little shady things he was doing at the 11th hour, pardoning Fauci and Liz Cheney and his own family. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out about these people now that they're you can't prosecute them, but to find out about the crimes that all these people perpetrated right before Biden pardoned them. So let's get back to Trump.
Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
What's interesting about that statement, and Trump's ear too, you look at Trump's ear and I can't really see any kind of semblance of a scar, or like, you remember when you remember when Mike Tyson bit Holyfield's ear off? Yeah. And Holyfield had this big chunk like missing from his ear from Mike Tyson biting his ear off. You don't see anything like that with Trump's ear. It looks perfectly fine. I don't know if he had some kind of plastic surgery to restore it or something, but it's just kind of odd to me. I'm wondering about that assassination attempt. And again, my conspiracy theorist coming through.
Right. Naturally.
Also, there was a photo that was put out on social media of Trump getting sworn in, and his hand wasn't on the Bible. Melania is holding the two Bibles, his mom's Bible and the Lincoln Bible, right? And Trump's hand is by his side as he's taking the oath. He doesn't put his hand on the Bible. So that was kind of interesting that he says that God saved his life, but then he's not swearing on the Bible. So that's a little bit of food for the Trump haters, like, a little interesting. And I just see a theory that, like, somebody put it out there that, oh, he never was not the president. That's why he didn't need to be sworn back in. That's why he didn't put his hand on the Bible, because he's been the
Exactly.
president. He was never in
Exactly.
2020. That was a illegitimate ousting from the office. So maybe in his mind, he didn't need to swear himself back in because he's always been president. Or
Right.
maybe if you
Well,
want to go even deeper into this conspiracy theory puppet show bullshit, maybe this was all planned, and Trump's it's just part of Trump's resurrection as Osiris, to put on this facade that the whole last 4 years of the Biden presidency have just been this grand illusion, and it's all been planned out. So
so
there's
one of the things I talked to one of my friends, actually the Miss Lady D, who watches us religiously. We talked about this, and she's saying that according to some of her people that she's communicated with, that they feel that this has all been a military operation since he left the last time, and that potentially this could have been just a way to um divert attention from uh from him to a new administration, so that the people operating in the shadows would feel more comfortable operating and doing their dirt, so that from behind those shadows the military could do their operation of seeing who the dirty people were within government, within office, within levels of power, so that they could come in and do their cleanup. But we won't know until we go through the rest of this administration, won't we?
That's why I say it's gonna be really interesting, man. I don't really know what's coming next. It's one of those this TV show of America that's happening. I'm pretty I'm pretty intuitive, right? I can usually see things before they happen, and I can kind of see the chess pieces moving. I've been this way since 9/11, since I really dug into this stuff and started. I could kind of see what was going to happen next, right? Like I knew the COVID pandemic was going to happen at some point. I just had this intuition that something big like that was going to happen. That they were going to, just with all the bird flu and the SARS and the all these like fake pandemics, right? These like half like they were doing this for years, where they kept like bringing out these viruses and like warning about it, and then nothing ever happened. I was like, one of these days, one of these pandemics are going to catch fire, and it's going to be like a movie, right? And then sure enough, 2020 came, and it played out exactly. We were in this weird space and time that lasted way longer than it should have. And yeah, so I, for one, do not know what the fuck is going to happen next. I am just as in the dark as anybody else. I can prognosticate, like today, watching this inauguration, and then he had his little speech at his little parade not long before we started recording, and I was kind of just like waiting to see if maybe his head would get blown off. I'm like, is they going to kill this dude? Because I don't really know what's coming. I don't.
Right.
It's
Right.
really interesting to me because I'm in a space where I haven't been in a while, where I don't know if Trump's going to get killed or if Trump's going to become this like de facto dictator that everybody predicted when he first got elected 2016. Like um and if you look at the way that the narrative's kind of been crafted, right? He's been crafted. America loves a comeback story, right?
Yep.
And this political comeback, this rebirth of Osiris, right? Look into this Masonic ritual, the rebirth of Osiris. It's ingrained in our whole symbology, and especially the way the capital is constructed. Right? You look into the Freemasons. A lot of their mysteries and stuff are rooted in ancient Egypt. A lot of the structures in Washington are Egyptian, like the obelisk of the Washington Monument. It's the obelisk of Osiris. So there's a lot of mystic symbolism from the Freemasons planted in Washington, right? And the inauguration specifically is a ritual that is patterned around this Osiris rebirth, right? And there's this belief in a prophecy, right? That the real Osiris, the rebirth, the reborn Osiris is going to take power at some point, and this ritual is designed to empower that individual who is the prophetic figure of Osiris reborn. So, is Donald Trump Osiris? I don't know. He doesn't really look like an Osiris to me, but it's just really interesting when you really get into symbolism. It's the stuff we've talked about for a while, the symbology and the mysticism that is ingrained behind a lot of these symbols that are the to the average person, to the regular Joe. You guys don't really know about this stuff, but you dig into this deep symbology of the occult, then you find these interesting little tidbits. So that's just something to be cognizant of and aware of. As you know, Donald Trump is, if you love him or you hate him, you got to admit Donald Trump is the man of our time. 100%. There's nobody else like him that's ever been like this. You know, this level of fame, this level of influence, this level of polarization, where people either extremely love him or extremely hate him. The Donald Trump is the man of our time. And that's why it's so interesting to see now that he's taken power again, to see where it goes and all the promises that he's making. So let's continue on with his speech.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's an old Baron.
Thank you very much.
The first of many standing ovations.
Yeah, the first of many.
That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
High season North Node Day.
Yeah, I think North Node Day.
It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural, and very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
Another standing ovation. Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success.
Biden looks like he doesn't give a shit, but Kamala looks pissed.
We will not forget our
Yeah, like I
Constitution.
said, she's got a sour
and we
puss.
will not forget our God. Can't do that.
There's that God topic again.
Yay, back to God again. But he didn't put his hand on the Bible. Very interesting. I real quick before we get back to the inauguration speech, I found a planetary alignments that we talked about earlier in part 1, and I just wanted to kind of read this little thing about it because we were kind of running out of time. We're probably going to have to cut this off and come back for part 3 to finish off the speech. But I figured I'd throw this in there just before we're done. It says, the The 7-planet alignment is a powerful opportunity for manifesting in 2025. All 7 planets being so closely aligned simultaneously is a powerful transition in astrological terms that both heightens the overall energy of the cosmos and enhances the ways each planet impacts our lives, psyches, and emotions. That means January 25th is a great opportunity for reflection, introspection, and intention setting. The last one is where manifesting comes in. Experts on manifestation like Soma Kaya suggests using a few simple affirmations in order to take advantage of this big astrological moment, not just on January 25th itself, but each day leading up to it. Everything that you think, feel, and say is going to have an impact on the way your entire year goes. If you want to keep it simple, positive, that's a great place to start. But if you have specific things you want to bring into existence over the course of 2025, January 25th is a great opportunity to take a step forward. So, if you guys are affirmation people, I would suggest getting in on your affirmations. And just goes back to the stuff we talk about. It's going to be Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and Uranus are all going to be in alignment on that day. And while some of them aren't going to be visible to the naked eye, many of them will. And this just goes back to the stuff we talk about with astrology and how the heavens, as above, so below, have an effect on the energy levels, on the different, just the psyche of the people. You know, the moon affects us, so do the planets. And it's important to understand this stuff and know that these planets also affect your body and the energy of it. But this goes back to what we were talking about in part 1 about being responsible for yourself, being intention-led. Lead your life with intention. Don't play the victim. Take your own personal power. And these planetary alignments and the energy of the cosmos, since as above, so below, we're a reflection of the cosmos. So just getting into intention, and we've talked about this with magic, right? Like magic is just intention. If you come at it with a pure heart, with pure intention, with love in your heart, then there's a lot of very positive things you can do with yourself and others. And it's all about intention. Just like I was talking about the mystic symbolism of the Capitol and all the stuff with the Freemasons, and people like to say, oh, the Freemasons are evil. Oh, the third eye symbolism. Oh, it's evil. But no, it's intention. This is magic. This is symbolism. Like symbols have power with the intention behind it, right? Like you can use symbols for good and you can use symbols for evil, or what you want to define as that. So that was just a quick thing I wanted to throw in there. We got 5 minutes left. We'll do a little bit more of Donald Trump, and then we'll get on to part 3. But let's see what he says next.
Today I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense.
Which ain't so common anymore, but
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
Another Inauguration. Here it goes.
Yeah, it definitely gets redundant. Like, just let him talk.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
That should affect the drug trade in this country.
invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities.
I think it's a good place to stop for now. We got 2 minutes left. You know, I like a lot of the things that he's talking about. I think a lot of the things are needed. Some of it gets a little ad nauseum with the standing ovations, but some of these are necessary steps. Obviously, the gang stuff has gotten out of control, and the manufacturing base needs to be restored. It's like I said, it's been going on for 30 years since NAFTA, the elimination of our manufacturing. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the things he's talking about will be implemented, that the changes we see come, and that the average American person can elevate themselves back up again, because the COVID pandemic absolutely decimated this country, and a lot of people are still trying to recover from it. So hopeful for the future. And I think we can leave it there for this part. We'll be back with part 3, and we'll continue with Trump's inauguration speech.
And when we come back, also, I'm looking forward to hearing the part where he talks about the what his plans are with the IRS and the newly established ERS, the External Revenue Service. That's something we can talk about when we get back.
Yeah, definitely. When he mentions it, man, we'll go into that part in detail, because I think that's something that can really affect all of our lives in a very positive way. So we'll be right back.
The unified field. All of matter, everything that is a thing, emerges from this field. And this field has qualities like bliss, intelligence, creativity, universal love, energy, peace. You dive within and you enliven it, you unfold it, it grows. And the final outcome of this growth of consciousness is called enlightenment. Intuition grows. This field is a field of pure knowingness. You dive in there, you sort of just know how to go. It's like an ocean of solutions. The enjoyment of the doing, the enjoyment of life grows. Huge. People look like friends and not like enemies. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's us. At that level of life, we are all one. We're one.
And we are back for this part 3 of our inauguration special. And you guys just saw a video that I put in between the parts of David Lynch talking about the unified field. And unfortunately, we lost him this past week, a really great pioneer in the filmmaking industry and a wonderful mind. He's responsible for some really groundbreaking films and a groundbreaking style of filmmaking. And he's going to be missed. He has some really impactful movies out there: Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks, Lost Highway, Dune. He really was a groundbreaking filmmaker and a really brilliant, beautiful mind that we lost. So I wanted to kind of put a little tribute to him out there with that clip. It's a really insightful clip into the unified field and the concepts of oneness, universal oneness. So I thought it was a relevant clip to share. And before we get back to the Trump inauguration speech, I've got another little quote that I found from Eliphas Levi. I've been reading these quotes that I find, and I think it's a really good one that's relevant. So I'm going to read it real quick and we'll get back to Trump. This is from Eliphas Levi. Prince Sakyamuni, who has been called Buddha, said that all the torments of the human soul had their origin in either fear or desire, and he concluded by 2 sentences which we may thus render. Desire then nothing, not even justice. Wait until soon or late heaven accomplish it. Nirvana is not annihilation. It is, in the order of nature, the great appeasement. To will without fear and without desire is the secret of the omnipotent will. God fears nothing. He knows that evil cannot triumph, and he desires nothing. He knows that the good will accomplish itself, but he wills that the truth should be, because it is true, and that justice should be done, because it is just. Magic ought to will whatever the mage wants. He wants the beauty of nature, which he enjoys in its fullness, because he never abuses it. He wants the springs to come flower laden, the roses to bloom in their beauty, the children to be happy, and the women beloved. He wants men mutually to assist each other, to encourage the young and help the old. He wants the eternal good to triumph over the transitory evil, and he takes part patiently and peaceably in the work of society and nature. He wants order, he wants reason, he wants goodness, he wants love. And for that which he wants, he works with all his strength. For thus he wins immortality and happiness. Desiring nothing, he is rich. Fearing nothing, he is free. Wanting only what he ought to want, he is happy. The poet has said of God, for him to will is to create, to exist is to produce. We may say as much of the mage. Wishing for the good is to do good, and no existence is barren. That's Eliphas Levi from Paradoxes of the Highest Science.
That reminds me of it's interesting because just this morning I was having this conversation with Martine, which shout out to Martine, where we talked about you have your will, which is your human will, your will that you have as a human being. You have the will of God, and when your will lines up with the will, then he so eloquently put it, then it will, right? So when your will lines up with the will, then it will. Interesting concept, which is three, right? Things happen in threes, the
Yeah.
Trinity. So just something to keep in mind, something to, for people to think about.
I feel like that is the essence of the white path that we've been talking about. That we've talked about white magic versus black magic, alchemy versus sorcery. And the true alchemist path is to dissolve the ego will and align your personal will with God's will. That's when magic truly happens. That's when magic is essentially magic. And it's not, that's why I kind of grapple with this idea that of magic that has been placed in the public psyche, right? Because I'm not out here twirling my magic wand around and summoning spirits and bending the elements to my will. I am aligning my will with the elements, which is God. God is the four elements combined to form spirit, right? And it's when you align your will with God's will, then you can move mountains, which is essentially what Christ was saying about the faith of the mustard seed. That is true magic. That is the white path, essentially. What you just described, Alex, when your will and God's will, it will. And that's magic. And this perversion of magic in the minds of men, that is sorcery, right? The perverted path, the black path, the black lodge is this, I'm going to bend the will of the universe to my will. No, that's the opposite, right? So it's really something essential that needs to be understood when you're dealing with occult things and delving into this kind of stuff that we talk about, and the symbolism and the intention. So that's all very powerful stuff. I hope that resonates with you guys if you're dabbling or you're dipping your toe in or you're looking into the things outside of the ideological spirituality, the true spirituality, the white path, the razor's edge, the narrow path that we walk the path of Christ, the true path of Christ. Yeah. So with all that said, let's get back to Mr. Donald Trump's speech, and we will continue.
This Mystery Science 3000.
Yep.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
Environmentalists are shitting their pants on that one.
Right, like
Bye-bye Paris Climate Accord.
I do agree with the Green New Deal thing, though.
America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have: the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it.
That's an interesting point that he made. We've been sitting on the largest oil and natural gas reserves in the entire world, and yet we've been importing gas and oil from places like Russia and places like China, or not China, places like the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. And this is why a lot of our energy costs are so high, is because we've strategically placed our reserves off to the side to save them for a rainy day. And we've started importing all this stuff, and this is why our energy costs have gotten so astronomically high. And that's one of the most positive things I think coming from him, is we're going to start being self-sufficient with our energy production, and that's everyone's going to be affected by that. That's going to cause the prices of energy all around the board to come down considerably, which is one of the best things I think that he's putting out there, that he's projecting as one of his goals. And the environmentalists, like I said, are going to be shitting their pants, because environmentally, this is why a lot of these reserves have been stocked away, and we haven't drilled in a lot of these places where we know that there are deposits of gas and oils because of the environmentalists. But and anybody who is sad about that, let me point to India and China, who are the largest polluters in the world, who aren't checked at all. Like we're considerably less polluters than those nations, and we've come to this point where we need to get back to manufacturing these things. So anyway, let's carry on.
We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world.
That's another thing, is we can now start exporting all of our vast reserves and making money off
again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers.
Another standing ovation.
Yep. I believe that was a shitty deal anyway.
In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before. To restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government, my administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency.
So that's something important right there to talk about is the concept of an external revenue service. And this is something I think it's probably the most positive thing that I'm looking forward to from the Trump administration is the possible abolishment of the IRS. And this is something that as Americans, we've lived with our entire lives. It's just become, it's become accepted that the government takes income tax out of our checks, right? And this concept that this could be done away with is so foreign to so many people because it's something that we've been accustomed to. It's something that we've been conditioned to accept the government taking our money. This suggestion by Trump for the External Revenue Service could be groundbreaking for Americans for generations to come if we can implement it. And doing away with the IRS is something that's very necessary because I don't know about you guys, but I never enjoyed having 40% of my money taken from my check. And it's completely unnecessary. And things like Trump's plan for the tariffs can replace it. And this is a concept that's so foreign to people, but the IRS had not always existed. If I remember correctly, they implemented it during the World Wars, which is about 100 years ago, right? So this has only been going on for 100 years. And it's not something that necessarily needs to exist. The tariffs will replace it. And yes, foreign goods will be more expensive. If you want to buy a Honda, it's probably going to be more expensive, unfortunately. But that's just going to encourage you to buy American, which will enrich our economy. And it will reinvigorate the Detroit manufacturing base that's been decimated over the last 30 plus years by the NAFTA agreement. And it's people that aren't clued into this stuff. NAFTA is something that happened 30 years ago in our lifetime, and since then
under Bill Clinton, I think it happened.
Yeah, it was under Clinton. It was early in Clinton's administration that they implemented NAFTA, and since then we've seen the shrinking base of our manufacturing, and it's decimated our economy. It's made us rely on foreign goods. And if Trump can pull off the stuff that he says, it will make it so that we're self-sufficient manufacturing wise. We're not going to need all these imports. So yes, foreign goods will be more expensive, but also American goods will be cheaper because the manufacturing will be more affluent, and it will create more jobs. And this is all very positive things. A lot of the media will try to sell it to you as bad, because the media doesn't really work for this country. The media works for the globalists, and this is going to make us more self-sufficient and not needing globalists. And the globalists want the global government. This is something, you get into the conspiracy stuff, this is something they've been pushing for a long time. And we've been slowly bled out of our self-sufficiency. And what Trump is trying to reverse is this whole process of globalization and diminishing the American impact on the global scale and making us more of a soldier in the globalist war rather than a leader. And this is what's allowed countries like China to rise up to more prominence. So these are all good things in theory.
You've got a lot of things going on. Like you've got the BRICS nations, right, that have come together. So you've got other nations teaming up together to come up with global solutions, but we're not included in that. We're not at that table because we're actually the progenitors or the creators of the global problem, right? I mean, to some degree, we're like the global police, where we come in and like, oh, we gotta save everybody from themselves because we're the shit, and we go in there and we just do our thing, which is pretty much destroy everything that they have, and then we acquire all their resources, and then we sell it back to them for pennies on the dollar, and we're like, well, now it's ours because you needed our help, aren't we?
Team America, world police.
Team America, yes.
So these are the hopeful things with the Trump administration, is that he's disrupting all these old systems that have been implemented over the past few decades that have put us in this position of a global police officer and has stoked the anti-American fire throughout the world because we're getting our little dirty fingers into everything and becoming this de facto global, partner in enforcing these different things. But we can pull back now if Trump can succeed in this. We can pull back from that role and just be self-sufficient and worry about ourselves. And not get involved in these wars, and that's something I think he talks about later. Is not even getting involved in these wars. Let these places fight their own wars and have their own conflicts, and we're so self sufficient. We don't need to get involved in this stuff because we make our own oil and we make our own stuff, and we don't need to worry about these global conflicts. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
The only one thing that he doesn't talk about, which is interesting, is in all these conflict zones and stuff like that, like one of the things that we're going to have to rely on, unfortunately at this point is still we need to rely on external sources of food because we've got a big food crisis, but he didn't touch upon that. And that's one of the things that we are reliant upon other nations for our food, and so that's also an interesting thing to look out for coming into the future here.
Indeed. Let's get back to it.
After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
Get her done!
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
A lot of people are going to be mad about that statement. A lot.
Sure. The left's brains just blew up.
Yeah, it's I don't think you really needed to go there, but it just is goes back to the social stuff we're talking about in part one of this big social pendulum swinging backwards. Because if he had said that at his last inaugural address, people would have lost their freaking minds. But now we're coming into this social point where the woke stuff has been completely rejected in a lot of spaces. And people are applauding this rather than calling him a transphobe or
right, because everyone's been on the other side of that agenda, getting beat with the information. Like, what do you mean we have to accept this just openly?
So I don't necessarily think he needed to go there. I know a lot of my friends are going to be really angry at that statement, because I do have some trans friends and some LGBTQ friends who are very scared for their own safety in a lot of ways. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. Like, it goes back to what I was talking about with the empowerment of these far right wackos that now think it's fair game on people over here that were preaching to everybody for so long. And now that their ideology's been rejected, it could swing back to where these people feel empowered now to go violently oppose these people. And it's kind of just comes full circle, right? We saw a lot of violent far left actions in the George Floyd riots and the Portland, and so Antifa and their violent stuff. And I'm worried that now these like literal far right Nazi people are going to be like, well, Trump's in power and he's one of our guys because the media told us so. So now we're going to come out in the streets and start burning crosses again, and hanging black people, and fighting lesbians. And so it's something that we, as people who try to love everybody and accept everybody, here in the middle, here on this razor's edge that we walk between two wacky anomalies, the violence exists in these outliers, right? In these anomalies. And then there's a bunch of us in the middle that just want to get along and want to love each other and accept each other, and don't care if you identify what you identify as, don't care what religion you are. We just want people to start arguing on both sides of us, right? And just get along. It goes back to what I was saying in the election episode, was like, people around election time and when dealing with politics are like, well, you just need to pick a side already. And to me, as somebody who tries to stay out of
the middle is a side.
As somebody who's trying to stay out of these conflicts that I feel are ridiculous and are counterproductive to the oneness that I feel within my heart, I see these two warring sides that always are at each other's throats. It's like two drunks in a bar, right? And two drunks in a bar get in a fight, and they're ruining everybody's good time. And it's like somebody coming up to me in that bar and saying, hey, pick a side on one of these fights and you have to get involved. And it's like, I don't want anything to do with either of these two drunks. I want them to go away so I can just enjoy my drink here at the bar without having to deal with fucking assholes yelling and screaming and fighting each other. That's how I feel.
And that is a side.
And that is a place right here, and if more people could kind of come to that realization that this kind of shit is counterproductive and is divisive and isn't going to get us to the place we need to be, to where everyone can kind of live their life in the American way, right? Is like all religions, creeds, colors, we're all accepted. Sexualities, like we're all just accepted. Just let everybody be. You don't have to fight or be violent over your position and your weird, anomalous outlier. I want to be violent to enforce my ideology type of situation. Let's just all come to sanity. And I'm hoping that we can kind of restore that, and that Trump's election doesn't signal a rapid swing over here to where these people feel empowered to kind of get out in the streets and impose their will by violence. So,
and to your point, I'll say this is, I just saw the sides of this equation are, you have the right, which is conflict, right? The drunks in the bar conflict, and then you have peace, which is the external. So the side of, you have the choice of engaging in conflict or engaging in peace, and you can engage in peace. That's your side. That's all I'm going to say to that.
Yeah, great point, brother. Let's get on with this.
This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate.
A big thumbs up for that.
Back pay.
Yep, big thumbs up for that.
Yeah. Fuck the COVID vaccine mandate.
And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies.
As he looks back at Biden and Kamala Harris, defeating America's enemies as it looks to them.
Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
You know what's funny is Hamas released 3 hostages. Israel released 90. Wow. And nobody talks about the 90 people that Israel released. It's all about the 3 that Hamas released.
America will reclaim
That's about
its
the
rightful
scale
place as the greatest,
of
most powerful,
Israel
most
versus
respected
Hamas.
nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
They're kind of superficial.
President McKinley
talk about it.
made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
When you put it that way, I can't say I disagree.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop it. He goes on for another 7 minutes, but it's mostly about, we're coming to the golden age, and
yeah, it's a recap.
A lot of more of the same. That's a pretty good place to stop his inauguration address. So the Panama Canal is really important because it literally is the most important strategic canal in the entire world for trade. It literally
it's like the toll booth. It's like the world's toll booth.
Yeah, when we cut that swath of land into a canal, it literally cut the time that ships have to go around the entire South American tip by, I believe, weeks. Yeah, weeks. So it changed trade forever. And it's a huge strategic canal. I think it might be the biggest canal, or the most important. Most money goes through that canal than any canal in the world. It literally is the most strategic and important canal. And we probably never should have given it back to Panama, because we did fund it and we gave American lives for that canal. And now it's one of the reasons why trade is so expensive, and there's a lot of problems going through that canal. And like Trump said, China is operating it de facto because they're kind of putting their muscle to the Panamanians, and they run a lot of ships through there. China does a lot of trade through that canal. So they've kind of become the de facto owner of the canal. And by reasserting our power in that region, in that place, on that canal, it will go a long way towards our national hegemony and our control of the seas and trade. So that's a huge step. So those are all the, I think, a lot of positives in Donald Trump's speech. There's obviously like the having to state the gender stuff was just kind of a
Yeah,
slap in the face to the wokes. Um,
exactly.
and I don't feel like it was really necessary. The stuff about changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, that's not really a slap in the face of Mexico, because Mexico's part of America too. It's part of North America. So it's not like it's not like it's saying that it's not the Gulf of the United States, it's the Gulf of America if he changes the name, which I
Right.
mean, Mexico still, it's just kind of just, that's Trump's bravado, right? Like his oh, look at me, look what I'm gonna do. So that's the kind of stuff I don't like about Trump, and the kind of stuff that kind of makes me roll my eyes at him. And it's
I'm
kind
gonna
of
leave
just
my
his,
stamp. I'm gonna leave my stamp in this world. We're changing names.
yeah, 100%. That's kind of just him stamping his dick down on the table and being like, look what I can do. Which, that's the part of Trump I'm not a super big fan of. But there are a lot of
So,
good proposals. I hope he can do the external revenue service, right?
so
And
if he does just a fraction of the things he talked about, I think we're okay.
yeah, a lot of this
You know?
stuff could be game changers. The external revenue service, the reestablishing the manufacturing base, getting back to being
Yeah.
self-sufficient on oil, and
Energy.
the Panama Canal stuff, and trying to stick it to the wokes and the fast administration. That stuff's it's kind of just Trump being Trump. But all in all, I am hopeful that if these things can happen, if we can keep our nose out of foreign wars, if we can reestablish our manufacturing base and re-enliven our economy, and create more jobs, and cut off the criminals coming through the border, I
Right.
really, the stuff we talked about legal immigration, I think that needs to be looked at. I don't know if that would actually solve the problem. But so that's one of those can kicking problems that everything gets kicked down.
Kick the can down the road. Yep.
It's like, oh, we need to stop these illegal immigrants. Oh no, just let them in. Or how about we just make it easier for people to be citizens? How about that? I think that would solve the problem. And maybe it's one of those problems that's not meant to be solved, right? They don't want to solve that problem, because then we would stop arguing about it. So
Well, they're gonna argue. Well, we can make it easier to make people citizens. Let's just open the borders.
yeah, well, when I'm Osiris standing in that office, maybe things will be different.
You know?
But yeah, all in all, I think that was a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
It's a very historic day. We have a new president, same as the old president from 4 years ago. So I'm hopeful that things will turn around, and maybe we can get back to where America is great again. Not to
Yeah.
be redundant or cliche at this point, but
One
it's
of
a whole
one of the
day.
things one of the things that caught from him was he did not make any addresses to crypto or our financial system, which is interesting. Um and I'm highly focused on that because obviously I'm hedging that there's gonna be some turmoil coming up this year. But that's one of the things that weren't touched upon, and um I think that we're gonna have an opportunity now to first of all, I encourage anyone that's watching, if you do want to add something to this, please do comment below. I do know that I've gotten word from a few people that they've subscribed to the channel from me leaving comments on other people's channels. I've gotten hit up privately like, hey, we subscribe to your channel. So for all of you new subscribers that have seen my comments and other on other spiritual channels, I comment often about stuff. So if you have joined the channel recently, welcome. Welcome to the channel. We're here to pass off some of our knowledge and some of our wisdom and our experiences. We would love for you guys to engage with us in the comment section below. Do like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell for the YouTube algorithm, all that fancy stuff that all the YouTubers say. Um, and if you guys are interested in keeping up with these types of topics, today was actually a really fantastic day for both B and I, because today was the very first day that we were able to do a successful screen share
Yeah.
and comment on it, which I'm really looking forward to being able to do more stuff like this. Maybe not so much on videos, but on some informative, research that, B and I are always looking into stuff. So
We're
there's
almost out of
never
time, brother.
Ready when you are.
So we got cut off there. We ran out of time, so we're just gonna do a quick little wrap up with Alex here.
Yep.
Like Alex was saying, like, share, comment, subscribe. We're growing this thing little by little. Our view counts are going
Yeah.
up. People are starting to interact. I think we're starting to resonate with some of you. And if this resonates with you, other people that it would resonate with, share it with them. This information is important to get out there. We're trying to,
Yep.
takes all these breadcrumbs and all this knowledge and information and our perspective, make it nice little loaf of bread and serve it to you in
Right.
a palatable way and a non-judgmental way, and just kind of give you our perspective and
Right.
our experience, and then hopefully it strikes a chord with you guys.
Yeah. One of
And
the things I was talking about with this guy Martin earlier that I was trying to, convey to him was like, I was trying to convey, like, what do we do? It's like, one of the things that we acknowledge as alchemists and is that, for one, like, we're all traumatized. We all have PTSD. We've all been through all kinds of shit. We've all been lied to, backstabbed. We've all been through the ringer, right? In some way, shape, or form. But it doesn't give us an excuse to perpetuate that type of behavior and to mistreat others, right? Because this is kind of like, this is how you become a healer, which is you acknowledge the parts where it's like, well, that wasn't very nice, that wasn't very kind, that wasn't very cool. And when the opportunity comes up for you to act that same way, when you choose to be the greater person, when you choose to give people love and compassion and understanding, you get to slay that demon that people try to impose onto you, right? So I say that because, like, when people mistreat you, it's like a demon is mistreating you. It's not that person, it's a demon inside of them. It's that shadow inside of them that's mistreating you. And that shadow, when they mistreat you, it's almost like it's an imprint onto you. And most people, when they treat people badly, it's because they're bitter that they've been mistreated, that they've been misrepresented or misheard, and then they keep perpetuating that mistreatment. And so I encourage you and I challenge you to not allow other people to sway or um to change who you are internally as a core, as a human, as a divine being, as a loving being, because we've all been through a bunch of stuff. But a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in this podcast is to bring it to light that, yes, all these things do exist in this 3D matrix, but we're not of this world. And if we allow these things to affect us, in energetically, then they will affect us physically. So the power is ultimately yours. It's just the understanding that you have, and we're hoping that we can empower you to give you the knowledge that you ultimately hold the key to your own happiness or to your own misery. Not your neighbor, not your family, not your girlfriend, not your boyfriend. You hold the key, and only you can prevent forest fires.
Smokey the Bear, little Smokey the Bear for you guys. No, that's a
Right.
really good point, Alex, and it's really kind of encapsulates everything we're trying to bring to you guys here. It's part of the things that we're talking about when we talk about you're not a victim, and trying to empower you to find the power within yourself, come into your power, step into your power. But also, like, it's really important, like you said, to recognize that as you rise in your vibration and elevation, you're going to start triggering people. They're going to start projecting on you. And really, what you have to really understand, this is so crucial. And I still suffer from this. I had something happen the other day that was a perfect example of the tests that life offers us. But life is a mirror, right? These people that you see outside of you, and we're all one, right? This is the key guiding principle that you understand once you come to this realization and walk this path, is everybody is a reflection of you in one way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a version of an old version of you, or someone's trying to project an old version of you onto you, or they're reflecting qualities that you used to embody, and it's bringing out something inside of you that's trying to get you to fall backwards to these old patterns. And this is something I had happen the other day, where somebody wasn't valuing me, wasn't respecting me, wasn't seeing me, and I was trying to disempower me and disrespect me. And it caused me a lot of disconcertion over a couple of days, where like I put a lot of like work and effort into this project that I'm doing, and this person wasn't valuing me, wasn't respecting me. And it brought up these old versions of myself that were just angry at this person and just bitter at them, and all, they're a piece of shit and da 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 da. And then I realized, wait a minute, no, that's a reflection, right? This is a reflection. This is somebody who's in a place that is not where you're at, and they're projecting things onto you, which is causing, like you said, the demons, right? It's their demons are trying to irritate your demons and bring up these old versions of yourself. And I came across this quote on this tarot reader that I follow, who's really funny, and I really enjoy her work a lot. But she posted this post, and it says, just remember, we are all toxic. Every single human being is capable of being toxic, has been, currently is at times. But some people have the desire to be educated on it and do better, while others will ignore any accountability and continue to act the same way. Pay attention. But it's important to
Absolutely.
realize that about others, but also to realize that about yourself. Don't let someone else's toxicity bring you into a toxic place, because this is what the work is all about. And when you say you are a certain person and in a certain way, and that you've made this change, and you're trying to reflect the light and project the light onto others, you're going to be projected darkness to try to bring you that light down, to try to make you come back into that old version of yourself that you've tried to heal from. So
Yep.
just know that when you step on the path, you will be tested over and over and over again, and given opportunities to prove you are the person that you say you are.
Right.
And when these people do these things to you, it's not because they're shitty or they're evil or they're stupid, or they're just in a place where they don't
that you're not.
They're just in a place where they don't understand their own darkness and their own shadows, and the wounds that they haven't healed from, and the knowledge that they haven't come to an understanding of. They just haven't walked through the path like that you're walking. So you have to give these people love and understanding, and try to come from a place of compassion, that they are in such a place where they don't recognize their own patterns. They don't recognize the way that they're projecting darkness onto you. They don't recognize it. They don't understand it. They can't comprehend it. So you have to always be that light and try to recognize when you're being tested. And this is something I recognized that after I had been stewing over it for a long time, for longer than I should have, considering how much work I've done on myself. After stewing on it, I finally came to this realization that I just need to send this person compassion and love, and just try to understand that where they're coming from. They're just not in a awakened, aware place, so that their actions are affecting me in that way. So that allowed me to kind of release it. And then we have to come to that's why it's so important to come to the moment. You come to the moment, and you take these things that from the past, even in the recent past, that are just gnawing at your ear and your demons are whispering in your ear, trying to get you to come to that dark place, and you recognize it. And then you come to them. The more you practice coming to the moment, the more these intrusive thoughts and actions and things that are trying to drain your energy will just dissipate. Because as soon as you come to the moment and recognize it, it disappears, and then you're back to center. So on that note, I think we've taken enough of your time. This episode's been kind of long, but guys, it's really important. We keep talking about this path, this middle path, and not getting. I mean, Trump is this, like I said, he's the man of our time, and he's very polarizing. And whether you're super happy, oh yay Trump, oh let's standing ovation, oh yeah, everything he says is gold, or you're one of these, oh this guy's a piece of shit, he's gonna destroy the world, like you gotta fucking push that away, right? And come to yourself. You have the power, not Donald Trump, and you don't want to give him your power and think he's some kind of savior, and you don't want to give him your power thinking he's the antichrist. You want to come into your own power and be like, you know what? It doesn't matter any way, shape, or form what Donald Trump does. I am in charge of my own
Bingo.
life, and my life is going where I decide. And ultimately, the
Right.
power is in your hands. So, with that note, we love
We
you
love you.
guys. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. If you like my t-shirts, the links in the bio. There's all kinds of other great stuff in the bio or in the description. Links in the description below. Check it out. Follow us, share it, and we will see you next time.
What's up, everybody? I'm Alex, and I just want to know real quick, if you're going through a bunch of stuff and you need to connect with somebody, if I open myself up in terms of making myself accessible to communicate with me through a phone or through a Zoom, that you'd want to take advantage of that and you'd want to book a session, you're welcome to do so. I am going to make myself available to people who are trying to overcome obstacles or just need a different perspective on how to handle relationships or certain situations in their life. If you want to go ahead and do that, I'm going to open up the session for $100 for the hour if you want to talk on the phone, and if you want to connect on a Zoom, it'll be $200 for the hour. This way I could give you my undivided and my focused attention for what you need. And of course, everything we talk about is private. It's between you and I. And really, just if you want someone like a big brother to talk to, that's really all this is about. No judgment, and just if you want a different perspective. I mean, again, this is just a lot of people have been reaching out, and I can't take on, like I spend sometimes on the phone like 8 to 10 hours a day on the phone, and I just need to be a little bit more I need to be a little bit more mindful of my time. And so I did this because instead of doing marketing service for promoting stuff, like I do have some clients that want me to do some marketing services for them, and I still plan on doing those things, which is one of the services I'm going to offer through Plank as well. But ultimately, like, the idea of this is a counseling and intuitive guidance type of situation, a one-on-one type thing. If you want me to help you promote your business, do your social media management, if you want me to help you build a brand, stuff like that, we can talk about those things too. And I do have a lot of years and experience in tech. I'm currently working on building some AI agents to help build an entire, automated flow of information for, utilizing like Telegram or WhatsApp to control an AI operator to like handle stuff for you. But these are things that, yes, I can work on these things. These things are in fact not that difficult. What's difficult is finding, clients that are serious about getting the business, that they, putting their business on these systems. So anyhow, if you guys want to learn more about this stuff, we can go down either path. The idea is that I don't want to necessarily just sit here and talk about like money and stuff like that, like how to make people money, because a lot of this stuff, yes, you will make money if you are able to clear out a lot of the negativity in your life, and if you're able to focus on how to improve your craft, whatever that is, and how to make yourself the most top-notch performance machine in what it is that you do, because that's what's going to make you more money. Coming to me, asking me trading strategies and like what I'm investing into, stuff like that. Like, yeah, I could show you a bunch of stuff and you will make money eventually, but it takes a lot of discipline, and a lot of you guys just don't have that, unfortunately. So so on that note, we'll just leave this here. Go to Plank, check it out, planck.fyi. Go to the services tab, book a session, and if you want to make a donation for the fires, go for it. Plenty of families out there that need the stuff. We're setting up a fund for that, and we will be transparent with all the stuff that we do with all those things too. All right, guys. So anyway, love you, and see you soon. Bye.